Rambam. We start the third book today, Sefer Zmanim, the Book of Times. This is not the New York Times, much better. The real Times, not the London Times, God's Times. They contain 10 sets of halachas. They are the laws of Shabbos, the laws of Eruvin, which is. Where are you? I told you I'm in the second part. I'm not doing the first part. The first part is just prayers. Go to the second part, okay? Just scroll down. Just scroll down until you come to it. You'll see. You'll see. We're starting chapter 1 of Shabbos. The laws of Shiva Sasar. Shvisas also that's the laws of Yom Kippur. Laws of Shvisas Yom Tov of holidays. The laws of Chametz U'Matzah, that's Passover. Laws of Shofar, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkah, the law of Sukkah Zalula. The laws of Shkolim, the half shekel. Laws of Kiddush HaChodesh, sanctifying the new month. Of holidays. The laws of Chametz U'Matzah. The laws of Tainus, of fasting. The laws of Megillah and Chanukah, of the story of the Megillah of Purim and of Chanukah. Okay? Those are all based on calendar, right? That's the idea. It's based on the calendar, time. Okay, so introduction to the Hilchos Shabbos. They contain 5 mitzvahs, 2 positive and 3 negative. They are to rest on the 7th day, not to perform work on this day. For the court, not to administer punishment on Shabbos, not to proceed beyond the limits established by the Torah on Shabbos, and to sanctify the day by taking note of it. Okay, these mitzvahs are explained in the following chapters. Okay, resting from labor on the 7th day fulfills a positive commandment, as it says, and you shall rest on the 7th day. Anyone who performs a labor on this day negates the observance of positive commandment, also transgresses a negative commandment, for it says, do not perform any labor. Right, both things. Right? What are the liabilities incurred by a person who performs labor on this day? If one does so willingly, as a conscious act of defiance, he's liable for kares. Right? If witnesses, so kares means premature death from the hands of heaven. If witnesses who administer a warning are present, he should be stoned to death. If he performs labor without being conscious of a transgression, he's liable to bring a sin offering of a fixed nature. Right. That's first halacha. Whenever the expression one who performs this is liable is used in the context of Shabbos laws, the intent is he's liable for kares. And if witnesses were present and administer a warning, he's liable for to be stoned to death, right? Death penalty for non-observance of Shabbos. If he performs such an activity without being aware of transgression, he's liable for sin offering. That's what the word liable means, okay? Meaning it's a biblical law that one is liable for. Okay, whenever the expression one who performs this is not liable is used. 3.
Thank you.
Found it, yeah?
When such treatment is administered?
Whenever the expression one who performs this is not liable? What do you have?
When such treatment is administered, it should not be enlarged by the Gentiles.
No, so you're in chapter 2. Go up. You went too far.
Okay.
You went too far. Go to
Oh,
chapter 1. Go to chapter 1.
Okay,
Okay?
where that is. Thank you.
So if he uses the expression one performs is not liable is used, the intent is not liable for chorus. Liable means punishment, right? That's the idea. That there's a liable means that there is a consequence, right? Not liable means there isn't a consequence. Or for execution by stoning, or for bringing a sin offering. It is, however, forbidden to perform the act on Shabbos. Not liable, but it's still not permissible. In such an instance, the prohibition is rabbinic in origin and was instituted as a safeguard against the performance of a labor. A person who performs such an act is given stripes of defiance, which is rabbinic, not biblical. Similarly, whenever the expression "this should not be performed" or "is forbidden to do so" on Shabbos are used, a person who performs such an act in a conscious act of rebellion is given stripes of defiance. Again, because it's all rabbinic, not biblical. Because biblical means you're liable, right? Liable either for sin offering if it was unintentional, for excision, right? Premature death if it was done willfully, with no witnesses, and with witnesses and being warned, right? Then you would have death sentence. That's what it means liable. Okay. Whenever the expression is permissible to do this is used, the intent is that at the outset one may perform this act. Similarly, whenever the expression one is not under no obligation or one is not liable at all are used, one does not receive any punishment at all by performing such an act. Right. The expression implies that on the outset it's improper to do this, but doesn't warrant any punishment, not even rabbinically, which would mean lashes, right? You don't even get that. But to begin with, it would not be the way to act. It would be improper, right? No, that's not what we just said. We said the opposite. Not the opposite, but it's like a middle ground. Permissible means it's completely permissible from the outset. But if the expression is you're not under obligation, you're not liable at all, it means there would not be any liability even rabbinically, right? That's what it means. But that doesn't mean that's what you should do to begin with. But if it was done, it's, there would be no consequence of punishment. Number 5, it is permissible to perform an act that is permitted on Shabbos, despite the fact that it is possible, but it is not an absolute certainty that as a result of one's actions, a forbidden labor will be performed, provided one does not have the intent to perform that labor. So what does it imply? What does it mean? A person may drag a bed, a chair, a bench, and the like on the ground on Shabbos, right? Remember, we're talking about a floor that's made from earth, not from, there is no flooring, right? Provided does not intend to gouge out a groove in the earth while dragging them. Therefore, even if he did gouge out a groove in the ground while dragging them, it is of no consequence, for he did not have the intent in mind, right? Because you're not allowed to make grooves in the earth on Shabbos. That's like that's what you do when you plant, right? So now you didn't mean to do it at all. You just went to move the bed, but it's heavy, and therefore it made some grooves. You had no intent to do that at all. Similarly, a person may tread on grass on Shabbos as long as his intent is not to uproot it, right? If you were walking on the grass, but you figure, grass needs a little trimming over here, and you're gonna knock it with your shoes and knock it out. So you had that intent, you're not allowed to. But if you had no intent, you could. Thus, should it be the uprooted, is of no consequence. Also, a person may rub powdered herbs and the like over his hands, provided he does not intend to remove his hair. I guess herbs for that. Therefore, if the hair is removed, there's no consequence. Based on the same rationale, one may enter a narrow opening on the Sabbath, on Shabbos, even though while doing so, one causes pieces of the wall to fall. Similarly, it is permissible to perform any act with similar repercussions, provided that it does not have the intent of doing so.
Intent is like really heavy duty.
Well, no, because it's not something that for sure is going to happen, right? In other words, if it's for sure going to happen,
Yeah.
that might be that's going to be a different story.
Mhm.
Oh, look, okay.
What I mean
Here's
is-
going to say, here. In contrast, when one performs a deed that results in the performance of forbidden labor, and it is and certainly that his deed will cause the labor to be performed, one is liable even though he did not intend to perform the forbidden labor. So listen to this. This is going to be a little kind of out there. Back in the day, kids didn't have toys. So if you want to give a toy, I don't even know if this is just a wild example or if it's even something real. I don't think it's something real. What if you wanted to give your child on Shabbos the head of a chicken to play with? Now, who would want to do that? I don't know. But that's not the point. The point is a good example, right? So what's implied? A person needs a fowl's head to serve as a toy for a child, therefore cuts off the fowl's head on Shabbos. Although his ultimate purpose is not merely to slaughter the chicken. That's not what he wanted to do, right? He wanted to give his intent and actions are very different. The intent is I want my child is fetching, wants to play with a toy. I have no toys. Let me cut off the head of this chicken and give this. My child likes heads of chickens. So yeah, I'm going to give it to my kid. I had no intent to slaughter, which is you're not allowed to do, right? But since there's not a way to get the head of the chicken without severing it from the body and causing blood and whatever else, right? So, in other words, ipso facto that this is what's going to happen, then you're liable, even though your intent is not to right? Your intent was not to slaughter. That's not, you're not allowed to slaughter a child. I didn't want to slaughter. I wanted to give a toy. Yeah, but what you did was slaughtering the chicken, and therefore you're liable.
It was inevitable.
Inevitable. Exactly. It is obvious that it's impossible for the head of a living being to be cut off, and that it would and it would survive. Instead, the fowl's death came about because of the activity. Therefore, he is liable. The same applies in other similar situations. Okay, I would love to continue, but I'm not strong. Okay, we'll see you.